This will be a whole lot more fun if you guys ask questions.
Yes, and then I got a quiz for you at the end. But it's nothing about Greenup history. It's just a fun thing. Sometimes when the day is ending and I happen to pass by the old depot there on Main Street, it'll just sort of catch my eye. And the memories that cross my mind, I can close my eyes and see the luggage wagons all lined up and the folks waiting patiently. There's a certain kind of feeling that you just can't quite explain when you heard the whistle blowing just before you saw the train.
Did you make that poem up?
No, I didn't make that one up.
Well, you should have.
The Vandalia Railroad was surveyed in 1852 to be located originally on Railroad, which is now Lincoln Street, in front of Bishop's Funeral Home. And if you drive down that street, you'll notice it is just a tad wider than the rest of the streets. But apparently this proved to be an undesirable location, for in 1869 the site was moved approximately 3.5 blocks south. There have been many changes, and so many through the years, that it's difficult to explain where anything was located back in the mid-1800s to 1900s, unless you have some knowledge of the history or a reason to drive around the area or visit residents south of town. New Route 40 caused houses to be moved or raised, new roads to be built or altered, and streets renamed. As a historian, my preferences would be to preserve the latter, even though one's named for my cousin Jay Hayden. In looking at old maps, Railroad Avenue is now Jefferson. Railroad Street is Lincoln. There's a cinder road that connected the two, and it ran into Mill Road, which begins at the old National Trail down by the fairground and leads to the Walla Walla Wagon Road, now South Lincoln. It would be more in line with historic Greenup if both the new and the old names could have been put on the street signs. This way, we would honor our various residents and our presidents and simultaneously give a history lesson. In 1854, the Mattoon-Grayville line, which was later the Peoria-Decatur-Evansville, or as it was commonly known, the Pretty Damned Early, then Illinois Central, or IC, started through the northwest part of our county. The line was completed through Greenup in 1875. And in 1877, the first passenger train stopped in Toledo, loaded up with passengers and liquid refreshments in celebration, and made a round-trip run to Greenup and back. By 1880, we had a one-story depot on the line, and in 1881, the PDE was permanently changed to the Illinois Central. Let me see where we are here.
That was 1861.
1875 is when they crossed over. In this picture, you see what the old Illinois Central Depot looked like. This would be the Winery Hill right back here. And our depot was located somewhere close to where the FS bins are down in the low ground.
Now this is my big hang-up.
Yeah, it's debated, and it might have been farther east than that too.
Toledo,
We have-
where it is now.
Say what?
Toledo was it where
The
it is?
depot? Mm-hmm.
Where it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The place where it actually was, at the very first, we've looked and tried to decide. And according to the descriptions, they don't exactly all match, but then they're close. I have the abstract of this area and old plat books and maps and my written records from early newspaper accounts. And besides being sick, my housekeeping is lacking because I've been down there so much tracking. But no one on this side of the great beyond can recall what Grandpa said. And since tempus fugit, I can only give my opinion. And here are a few descriptions in regards to the depot location. Now, not the one we all remember. I'm talking about the original one that sits over here. Because the one we remember, or most of us do, I would think, was the one-story one. They described it before the high track elevation as east of the depot. In 1853, Ed Talbot.
Talbot's gonna be right in this.
Talbot's over on the Edelbrick Drive.
Okay, yeah, right there. There's.
Yeah.
Okay. There's Ed
Okay.
Talbot's land
House,
right there.
yeah.
House.
Okay. He built a mill right down at the bottom of the hill, I think, on his property.
Around this way somewhere.
And he was the one that had the big fancy home. Actually, it was prettier than Edelbrick's, where the Edelbrick home stands now. It burnt and was turned into a pasture, and then old Nick Edelbrick bought it and built his big home. And now the road south of here is called, well, you can stay there on the map for a minute if you want to. If you want to go back to it. The road south of here, you see where it looks like it crosses the tracks there? Well, they call this Edelbrick Drive. And it did cross the tracks at one time, but they've discontinued it now. You can't cross the tracks there anymore.
Yeah.
And
So where's the Green Baptist Church on that map? Help me.
Probably in this area right here.
Okay, so we're.
oh, we're going to get to that pretty soon.
I'm trying to
Yeah, she's just trying to see where it was.
we're at.
I'm on my way.
Now this area down here, this has all been lost. It's just, well, it looks like that. You know, you can drive down further down there and it's just a scruddy old
Yeah,
road.
where right there where his arrow is, put it to the left a little.
Mhm.
That's the railroad track.
Right in through there. And a long time ago, Bobbie thinks, and I do too, that
Where's
this
this
was the
at?
main road, the main road into town.
No, I don't.
No, over a little. I'm getting to that too.
Yeah.
That's Ken's tractor.
Now take a peek at this picture and you'll see the railroad tracks right there. Now I'm gonna go back to the map and show you where it was. That is located right here. So if you go down this, is that Edelbrick Road? Is that what it is, Bobbie, right there?
Edelbrick Drive, yeah.
Edelbrick Drive.
That's what they call it. But that right there
Uh-huh.
is, that is not it.
Yeah.
It would go right straight.
Right straight.
Straight down Edelbrick Drive.
There.
No, don't go on that.
Okay, straight
Go
down this
over.
way. Over this way?
Straight down from Edelbrick Drive, straight
straight
down
down
and
here,
across.
down and across.
Don't pay any
Down.
attention to that.
Okay. and
Not
across.
now.
Okay, okay. Now, was that the way into Greenup at that time, you think?
Yes, but
That was way before
Remember-
130.
remember, we think it was over to the west a little.
Okay.
Of course, we saw that concrete.
Huh?
Just show them which way north is.
Okay, north is this
Is
way.
it top of that?
South is this way.
Okay.
Of course, that's gonna go over there toward the fairgrounds right there.
Can
This
you
is gonna
read?
be east.
Can you read where I wrote fairgrounds?
Uh-oh,
Or can
yeah.
they read it even?
Yeah, I see where-
There's fairgrounds right there. This
Yeah.
would be Winery Hill, about right in through there somewhere.
And,
On the other side, Edelbrook Drive, I'm lost, where's that at?
well, you know where Edelbricks lived. You don't?
Willenberg's, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yes,
Yeah.
I've got it.
Go down that way.
Yeah, they live on Little Brick Drive.
Okay.
There'll be a picture coming up here in a little bit
Okay.
of the overpass.
Okay.
The train, and then you'll see. It'll
You
click
said
just like
this
that.
is before 1:30?
Yeah. Mhm.
Now,
This would be the way into Greena. Okay.
because of the way I wrote this down for Roger to pick out pictures, I'm going to, he's lost this picture anyway, but I'm going to digress a little bit here because it has something to do with Little Brick Drive, but I'm going to tell something else besides that. In 1927, Ernie Bancroft and Trustee Ross Greason represented Greenup at a Springfield Commerce meeting to get state aid for constructing the Edelbrick Drive Road, a rerouting to pass the track crossing more squarely. Now, when they say rerouting of what? Put the map back.
Okay.
Okay. This article stated the highway department ruled the road not be closed. What road? Okay. I'm assuming they meant the road a bit west on what we call a cul-de-sac or a horseshoe road. It goes down and around and comes back up. Just like that. Okay? That's the only thing. Otherwise, that statement, that came from a newspaper. Doesn't make sense. We think that is where the Palestine Road, right down there in the middle of that cul-de-sac, entered Greenup. And, one time Roger and I went down there, but it's full of brush now that you can't get into it. But Martha and John Neese and I went down there one time searching to see if we could see any way we could tell where there was an old mill down there, which would be Talbot's Mill, or if we could see where any indication of where the Palestine Road came through.
Now I've got some pictures here. I can take them down there.
Okay.
This would be
And,
the southern end of that cul-de-sac there. And
Okay.
And this likely or very close would have been how the Lincolns would have come into Greena. So this would be probably 300 to 500 yards
From the-
west
from
of
the
130.
Palestine Road.
Mhm.
and,
Now this is looking across the other side of the tracks. This is a cleared area. There's no brush, obviously, right there. And it just looks like the remnants of a road 70 or 80 years ago. So
And-
that's what we're kind of guessing.
yeah, and what we did see was what looked like the remains of a concrete bridge. And there's a little creek down there.
Now this is a creek. It's a very poor picture.
And, so this course would have been way before the railroad. They wouldn't have to be crossing the railroad back then. And we think
Right in this area.
that's where the Palestine Road came in, and that's where Lincoln traveled, and he went right up that street there. And now, if you know go right to the, whoa, right in there.
Right
Yeah,
here.
right at the end of that. If you know where Dr. Beck built that big brick house, and Bud Mitchell owns it now, okay, well, see, that came down from Metal Bricks, went right around on up, past that. And, where I'm gonna digress a little, here, that Roger lost the picture somewhere or another, but we did have one. In 1902, the Van Railroad had finished cutting the grade for a switch and started laying track for our gunpowder plant known as the powder mill.
Now that would be way over here. The Vandalia Railroad later became the Pennsylvania Railroad, which later became Conrail, which later became CSX, and that's the railroad that still goes right through here.
Yeah,
So that's it. Powder Mill Hill would be on the other side of the fairgrounds, way over here somewhere.
yeah, down in there where you got your arrow right
On the south side of
now,
the
yeah,
tracks.
Well, the
okay.
road went to Powder Mill Hill is out where the state's got a
Yes.
sword flag.
Yes.
Right.
That road goes right straight across the old railroad.
Yes.
Yes,
You can still find pits over on that hill.
Yeah, you sure can. That could
Well-
probably find one if you try to drive on the road.
well, if you don't know where Powder Mill Hill is, why,
Gunpowder.
Yeah, they made gunpowder before World War One. Isn't that when it blew up right before World War One?
1902 was when they were fixing it
Okay, and
in
then it
in
just
there.
Blew
Oh,
up.
they actually made it there.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. And there's one reason you might want to look. You go past the fairground, go west on 40, and cross the river bridge,
Yeah,
and past the covered bridge parking area that they put in there. You look for a little bitty road on your left, and it'll be between two hills, and it will just go on through the field and clear on across the tracks and all, but I don't know that it's safe to drive it. But
It's okay in a Jeep.
yeah, possibly. And when it was in operation, there were so many buildings scattered around the premises it looked like a small town. And among them were an acid boiler set in masonry, a soda house, mixing rooms, 2 nitroglycerin rooms, storehouses, boiling house, magazine house, and a 5,000-gallon water tank. The enterprise was defunct by 1910, possibly due to fear from frightened citizens. And the path in used to have a wooden gate. It's torn to pieces now, but pieces of it are there. Entrance, and a field road that led to the old river road. Now, sitting down there, right as you drive in, is the biggest rock you'll ever see in your life. It is humongous. And Ellen Dillyer Massey owns the land, used to be Lyons Dillyer land, and has just sold it this past year, but with the express contractual condition that she gets that rock. For her mother used to climb on it to mount her riding horse. And Ellen, however, has no earthly idea how she's ever going to move it up the hill. But she wants that rock. Okay. Now, let's see, where are we?
Well, we're getting ready for the
Back to
teletower, I think.
Okay. In 1860, the tracks were completed and regular traffic was running by 1870. The village had just incorporated the previous year, and in 1870, the village board voted to hold an election to levy a tax to donate $1,000 to the Vandalia Railroad to erect a depot. At this time, Jacob Genuine had become the manager of the Talbot Mill, and later it was named the Imperial Roller Mills. In 1877, the depot site was described as being just east of the light plant. And on October 31st, 1878, the station house was moved.
Now, this would be the light plant up here.
Yeah. Okay, and
So the depot was probably in this vicinity somewhere.
so this is what we would love to know. Exactly where that doggone thing sat the very first time.
Now, here's
But
a mystery
think-
for y'all. I don't know if you know where Chuck Carver used to live. You go down south of the tracks, you go down through that viaduct. Chuck used to live right over there. The depot, Bobbie was telling me, was somewhere between here and here. And the interesting thing that she told me
I think it was.
is that the depot that we have across the street We always thought that was the original one, but now we're starting to think that there was one here before that one. So that
Yeah.
might be a reconstructed.
That
depot there.
is no longer burned down or something, probably, like everything else did. Oh, but
Why are you thinking that?
why are we thinking that?
The pictures on that first one's only one story.
Now, that.
Yeah,
that-
that was the IC depot.
Mhm.
Well, because of all the different descriptions. For one thing, here's one reason. Completed on December 31st, 1886, was a move 12 foot north and 40 foot east of its present location. Now, why would you move anything just 12 foot north and 40 foot east when it's this big 2-story building? It doesn't make sense. We think there might have been another building, another depot at one time.
Have
but-
y'all ever seen the depot that used to be at Jewett that they moved north of Route 40? It's about the west side of Jewett. Now's a good time to find it. It's maybe 100 yards north of the highway.
Beauty salon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Chances are the first depot in Greenup looked similar to that. We can't say for sure. But they wouldn't have had a big need to have a huge depot like we now have until they would have built the cross tracks from the Illinois Central at that point. You know, so the Pennsylvania Railroad was far more profitable than the Illinois Central was at this point. So our current thinking is that when they first put this railroad through in 1869, 1870, that it's probably a small depot. And then it kept moving. Bobbie's found all this information, how it's kept moving. And this, I don't know, they moved it 2 or 3 times before they moved it up to Houghton Park.
Put that map back up
Okay.
a minute. And go to that Talbot Road.
Okay, here's Talbot Road right here.
Okay, all right. Okay, then go over. Yeah, just follow over. All right, now between those two is where we thought, find the light plant on there.
There's a light plant right there.
Well, it's down a little farther.
Yeah, down
but
a little
it's-
farther right into
Okay. All right, now they've got that it was east of the light plant, but right before this I told you that they said it was close to the Talbot Mill. So somewhere
Could have
between
been in
those.
this area. We're going to show
Yeah.
you these pictures here in a minute. We're just trying to organize it. Yeah.
So to tell you for the exactly whether it was this one and whether it was one that preceded this one, I don't suppose we will ever know that. But it says it stood near the genuine mill. So that'd be down over there, see?
Lost it.
Yeah.
Right in through this area.
But then on the other hand, it says it was east of the light plant. Well, that
That
bears
puts the depot
out.
right there.
Yeah. So anyway, it was completed on December 31st, 1886. And the agent was Guy Lemon, and he moved his family to the upstairs quarters. And the teletower, John Monahan was the telegrapher. They called the telegraph system Educated Lightning. And the telegraph office was previously in his father Gersham's general merchandise store. That would be where the little Erba building just next door and north of the Stagecoach restaurant. That would be where the old Monahan general merchandise store was. Now this move of the depot was described as a complete overhauling and referred to as the new depot. Bob Button, grandfather, had the contract for plastering, and it was a combination passenger, freight and dwelling with an outside, and I didn't tell you to get that,
I got
but
it.
you got
Got
it.
it.
Outside stairway on the back that led up to the middle room. They called it a superstructure. And I guess we do also, for it's a super enhancement to our main street. The cost of the move, alterations, additions, freight platforms, roadways, and grading the lot was $10,599.06. Value of the building in 1887 was $1,507. However, 1928, when it replaced the IC station, the estimate was between $350 to $500, and we got it for $25. Okay, where am I now? 10, 10, 10.
The only way that you could get up into the station master's quarters was this stairway back here. If you go to the back side of the depot where it's located now, there will still be the door up there that we have nailed shut, but the stairway is no longer there. What you see back here is just like it was. So whenever they finally moved it here to where it is located as a park in the town, it was actually on park ground, they ended up getting a stairway out of somebody's house. I think it was the Cutright's house,
Yeah,
or so.
I think it was.
And they cut a hole that would allow you to go up out of this room right here, just on the inside of this wall, and get upstairs. So that's the way you go there today. I've always found that interesting.
Okay, now let's go back to the map a minute. Oh, and I think you've got this picture. Or now on this cul-de-sac or horseshoe, on both sides of that was ravine and hill.
Mm-hmm.
Houses built on both sides up on the top of the hill there.
Mm-hmm. You want me to get
And-
to some of those houses?
Did we get any of those?
I have a few of them. We're going to get down to the Thomas house and Schrock's.
Well, we're not
we're
there
not.
quite
Okay,
yet.
all
No. Okay. But you did take a picture, if you remember where it is, of that gully south of, over there on the other side on the way to I-30, 130. There. Okay, right in there, which would be south of Edelbricks, on the left of your screen there was a big gully, and I think that was filled with water, and I'm going to guess that water helped power that Talbot mill down there, somewhere or another. And it provided a swimming hole in later years for the kids. And now there used to be a branch west of the overhead bridge, and it went west several feet where that horseshoe road begins. So we think that branch started down in this area, maybe from this gully,
Somewhere in through here.
and went on down to where I said there was a little creek along that horseshoe bend there. There was a white wooden fence on the south side of this little horseshoe road along the branch, and there are ruins of this concrete bridge. As I said, we never found any actual proof that was where we got information, and one heck of a case of poison ivy going down in there. But that's as much as we got in proof that that's the Palestine Road crossing. Now, just, there was a section house, just as you, go back map.
Are you talking, you go back to the
Not,
map?
not that one that you
Okay.
got, we're getting
Okay,
to
you're
it.
talking about the section house.
Yeah,
located
that was right
here.
in there. Yeah, okay. They called it section house number 1. Now, section house number 2, you got the picture of.
This is the foundation that's left
Yeah,
of
the
that.
foundation, that's all that's left of it. It's really, really large. It must be about 4 foot tall. At least it's tall enough that I couldn't hoist myself up on it. And this was before fat and arthritis. So, the Gus and Sybil Neese family lived on the western hillside. Okay. Is that their house?
Well, isn't that Harlan Carl's old house? Is that the one?
Is that Harlan's?
No.
I didn't know
I
his.
thought that was Harlan.
No, that,
It's a different angle to it then.
It could be. I took several pictures.
I didn't think it was this.
It might not be that one. I don't know.
I thought it was more straight up and down.
Might
But
be.
this left side looks pretty much like it. It was in kind of a bad shape.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's where the nieces lived there. And, but Harlan that was his last home before he passed away. But he closed the Horseshoe Road.
No, I'll go back to
So nobody I used to drive down there all the time when I was
Now
young.
this is the horseshoe right there.
Yeah. I'd come down the Edelbrick and come back up the other way.
If we went down that way, this is basically what we would see. That's
Right
what the
now,
horseshoe
yeah.
looks like right now.
Yeah. That's the Horseshoe Road right now.
Mhm.
What are we talking about?
And, but my gosh, we kids played down in there all the time. Of course, played all over town back in those days. Didn't have to worry. You left in as soon as it's daylight, and you came back home when the street lights came on. Played out all over town all day. But Harlan said that belonged to him, and he closed it to traffic.
So he closed all this stuff off right there.
Yeah. And now, when the niece girls lived there, they knew the time of every train. And I talked to Ruth, and she was trying to recall her memories of 1932. Said the track siding came off here, and the train cars were run off onto the siding at 5 p.m., kind of back in behind their house.
Mm-hmm.
And she said there was a telephone box by that section house number 1,
Which would be over here.
and a man would sit on the hillside, and he'd look for trains. And she said that one time a fast passenger was coming across the I-30, 130, I would want to say I-30, that makes it an interstate, 130 overpass, and a little 3 or 4 year old boy walked from the siding up the grade onto the Pensy tracks, and the watchman was dilatory and didn't catch him.
So somewhere in here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Ruth's older sister saw him, and she screamed to the watchman and at the telephone box to turn it on, and he just got the engineer stopped in time. And she grabbed the little boy, saved his life, and she told me who it was, and I could tell you, but it wouldn't mean anything to you. I remember these people well, though. They were longtime residents. Also the freight trains that had coal, they'd go off the siding here, and passenger trains then would just continue on to unload near the Union Station. For by this time, the old one-story cream-colored IC station had been razed or burned, or both, and they combined it with the Pensy Station, Vandalia Station, whatever, several names, and made a Union Station out of it. So it served both the IC, and that's the one we remember. If you remember the train station down there, got the picture back? Yeah, that's the back side. If you remember it sitting down there, that's the one that then they combined, and it served both lines.
I'll take them, show them a good picture of what it looked like.
Okay.
When it served both lines.
And then, now we're getting to where you wanted to go.
Okay.
The van line, or Pensy, utilized the deep ravine behind the Thomas home, which is now, wait a minute,
Is that it?
Camper, Rosalie Campers.
Is that
Yeah,
it? Mhm.
yeah. And but the Thomases lived there. If anybody here knows Lucille Carr, that was her grandparents. She spent a lot of time there, and she said it was the highest hill, and there was a spur. And during World War II, every old engine available was put into service, and when they broke down, they were switched off here behind the Thomas house. And she said that they got very little sleep because those railroad men would be yelling and pounding the night long till they got those engines put back in action.
Now that Thomas house would be located here. There's going to be a pond. There's going to be some trees. And Schrock is going to be located, boy, I hope I get this one right around this area. Aren't they going to be located right there?
He's right on as the hill goes down.
Right here?
To your left.
To my left? Right there?
See that little dab of writing right at there?
Right there.
Yeah.
There's Schrock right there. Now Thomas would be down in this area right there. There's a little L-shaped road.
Yeah, right.
Right,
It
that's
says
where
Thomas right there.
And that's that house right there.
I'm not a draftman, folks. That's the best I could do at drawing a map. Anyway, this, and we think, go back to that a minute, that map. Okay, we think when that went behind the Thomases, and we think it came out right in there. In fact, you took a picture of that. And then went on, see, switched off. These switch tracks switched off, and they served the Union Station and the coal bins that was down unloaded the coal down there and all. And went on then, all the enterprises that were down there that were getting merchandise and so forth, why, they switched off and unloaded there. Okay, let's see. Okay, now, the Schrock.
James and Schrock.
Yeah, the Schrock house. That used to be Mort James, and Mort had an elevator down there. And, of course, that's right across from that state highway building and all. And, in between Thomas's and, the Schrocks, there's Donnie Stewart's shed and his pond, and the New Baptist Church, and what's left
There's
of
the pond.
Okay.
I don't have the church. But
Okay.
The church should be located right here.
Yeah, and then all those little things, that's James's Woods, Mort James's Woods.
There's Mort James's Woods.
And that's where we grade schoolers, when I was in grade school, they took, the teachers took us for nature explorations. And Kentucky Street, see if we can get that map back now. Kentucky Street, can you read where it says Kentucky up
Yeah,
there?
I'm trying to get it right there. Kentucky
Okay, it
Street.
ends there.
Mhm.
It never went any farther. And you had to go through a gate, and you
Walk
were
down to the woods right here.
on the right side of it, right in there, okay. There was another big house in there, the Reisner house. But you go through that gate and open it up, and you're at the best sledding place in town. And the high school boys, they'd build a big bonfire at the bottom of the hill on the east side so you could warm up. Now, if you slid to the south, why, there was a big bump, and that really sent you sailing. And you better be good at steering your sled, or you'd run into the railroad tracks. Now, I never had nerve to try this side of the hill. So I just watched the bigger kids. And the description in the history books as it being a hub of activity down there why near the railroad station was quite apropos because there was another activity. Pappy Jeffries, he was a rag picker and a honey dipper with a two-wheeled wooden cart, and he used James Woods as the depository.
Okay, Bobbie, I know what a honey dipper is. What's a rag picker?
Any bones, any bottles, any rags today. Let's pick up trash.
Okay, all right.
Litter.
So did Mort James have any issue with him dumping his muck down there?
I don't.
His trees are always green.
What did he say?
He said his trees are always green.
Yeah,
Yeah, with the natural fertilizer.
There were a lot more of those trees then. That was heavily wooded back then. I mean, you get down in there, it was really. Donnie cleared a lot of that
Now,
out.
surely you don't remember the honey wagon, do you?
No.
So when do you suppose that would have ended? That era?
I can remember the honey wagon
You-
in Toledo.
Okay, in Toledo.
Yeah.
Really? Ah. Well,
Don't we have a picture of some people putting in a sewer about 1920, maybe earlier than that through Greenup?
Oh, I lost his name now. He run that wagon, pulled around horses. And I know, well, they still had some sewers in Toledo, but they didn't have them all.
Well, I'll be darned.
oh,
But
well,
McLean? I'll be darned.
well, Mort James built his elevator in 1891, and at the bottom and on the west side of the street, near the beginning of Cinder Road. So go back to Schrock. So it'd be,
Schrock.
okay,
Okay,
down at
here's the
the
Cinder
bottom
Road.
there's Cinder Road. So right in there, in that little corner there,
Right in here.
yeah,
That's
would
where.
be the elevator.
Okay.
Okay. And his newspaper ads read, buyer and shipper of hay, broom, corn, coal, and junk. And on the south of the tracks was a row of big broom corn barns. They had double-facing
Is
doors.
this his mill?
That's it, Mort's Mill, yeah.
Okay,
And
Mort's
across
Mill.
from it
Mm-hmm.
were these big row of broom corn barns.
We'll get to that. Now you have a
We got
story
a
about.
picture of those?
Yeah, I have them, but I have them in a different order.
Oh, okay.
But tell them about this tower right there.
Well, I've not got to that, but I'm going. I'm
Okay,
going there.
all right.
I thought I ought to leave out was the part about the barns.
Oh, tell that part. That's funny.
Well, this is a religious group.
Well, they'll still get fun out of it. Here's some barns down here. Now,
Okay.
you guys probably remember this barn. You can still see.
You can
this
still-
probably was
still
not original, but it sure is old. Okay, they're using it for something.
Well,
But
these.
these are the barns she's talking about.
Yeah, that was on the south side, and and it was just called by the teens. It was called the barns, and they had uses unrelated to commerce, such as shooting craps and sparking, and there was a space between them, and it just provided the absolute #1 preferred lover's lane. And then I better not go on with that story anymore.
But you can ask her how she knows so much about this.
Told you it was #1 preferred. Okay. Now, halfway down the Mort James Hill.
Okay, Mort James coming down this
Right
way.
there. I've got a little da.
Right there.
No,
This right.
right
That
there.
one right there.
Yeah, okay. It's not an actual road. It was more like a horse path or a walking path. And there were a row of houses on the hillside there, right along in there. And also then up in the corner up in there, closer to where that 40 bends. I've got 40, no,
40
40's
bins
up,
right there.
yeah.
Okay.
That was where I think it was the house you live in sat. Eunice Carson house. That was where it was. Okay.
You know where the FS elevator is on top of the hill, right? That's where she's talking about. There's
No.
still a house right
Oh.
here that's all overgrown. You probably remember where that was. And that house might be one of the only remnants left of the houses that were located right through there.
Well, actually, I don't want to disagree with you.
That's fine.
That house you're talking
The
about,
one that's located right there.
yes, it's not in that row. It's above that row.
So it's right there. Okay.
Yes.
So
But
there's
all-
no houses left in
No.
that row.
That's gone. The road and the whole bit. But you used to be able to get from this Mort James or Schrock Road, whatever you wish to call it,
From there.
over to the light plant road. The one can go right through there, but you can't anymore.
Okay.
And same thing with the road. There used to be. Now wait a minute. Where's the Charlie Carver Road?
Right here. There's Charlie.
You used to go from Charlie's house right under the viaduct, right straight through there, and end up right in there, just a little bit north of the light plant. But Charlie closed that up. You can't get through there anymore. Okay. Now some of the
Tell them where the light plant's at.
what?
You wanna tell them where the light plant is?
You mean they don't know?
I don't know. You know what they're talking about?
You know where the old light plant
Still down
was?
there yet.
Okay, I'll help you out here a little bit.
Now, right north of the light plant, wasn't Dad Harmon's dad used to live right there with that elevator? Harlan Carl?
I don't know Harlan's. Oh, Harvey? Harvey? I don't know where Harvey lived. I
Dad used
thought,
to live right south of the old elevator, right there on the hillside.
That house he's talking about deteriorating belonged to Grouch Bancroft.
Grouch Bancroft. Sure. Wayne Grouch.
Would they call him Grouch? Would they call him Grouch to his face?
I don't know.
I don't either, but I never heard him called anything else.
Just Grouch?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, up on top of this hill, that'd be where the FS plant
Yes.
would be located.
Now
right
there's
up
the
there.
light plant
The
road.
light plant's there. Here's some of these barns that she's talking about, and there's the railroad tracks right there.
Oh,
And I think I have,
there.
here,
there.
there's a good picture of the light
There's
plant.
what the light plant used to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you all know it used to be downtown. The light plant, right behind our post office, the light plant and the fire station and the jail were all together, I think, in one building. Right behind where our,
The jail was just a little old one cell out.
yeah,
Cell, brick. Yeah.
oh,
This is what's left of it today. So you
yeah,
probably have seen that.
there's part of the storage part of the light plant. They keep saying they're gonna tear it down, but so far they haven't.
I'm sorry, say again,
State
sir.
of Illinois used to park their equipment in the old light plant.
Did they? State of Illinois used to park their equipment in the old light plant?
I don't
Right
know.
there, the store sold, or they did. Still they did.
Back in the,
Well, I wouldn't be
Okay.
surprised.
They did.
Well, didn't they fill it full of rock and stuff that they used, rock and salt and sand and stuff for a while too, that they used for their icy roads. Well, some of the families that lived on that little road we showed you a minute ago that went from that path, like, besides Eunice Carson in that area, were named Torbett, Hesslers, Lettners, and the last house, which would be right up in there.
Right in here?
Yeah.
Up on the hill?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was Charlie Ward's. Now, do y'all remember Kenny Fritz? That was his grandpa. Okay. Now, the center portion of Bishop's funeral home is the Charlie Ward house. The middle part right in there.
That big part right there.
Okay, and the Wallace Walden home, just east of this, that's the Mark James place. So a lot of the houses they had to tear down when they built 40, but a lot of them they got moved. There's a lot of them in town. I need to make a drive around one of these days again with my 2 Winnett buddies that can remember where everybody lived. They're so good at remembering that stuff. And we've been on a drive, but I didn't write down where it was. They'd say, oh, that was moved in there, and that was so-and-so's. Now, high on the hill, although I have the wrong hill.
Are you talking about
That's
that?
it. I thought that beacon was right south of Charlie Ward's house. It isn't. I've been told, now go back to the light plant road. Okay? I've been told that it's on the west hill.
Here?
Yeah. Now, find that picture of the road that goes up from the light plant. Goes up to Greason's elevator. There. Okay, I'm told it was over here instead of over here. Oh, but Frankie Coon called me the other day, wanted to know if I knew anything about tower being on his property, and one at Montrose. So I dug around and tried to find out for him, and I've decided I remember that beacon when I was a kid, and it flashed red all the time.
It's set, you know where the winery is,
Yeah.
that hill that comes in an angle up there, it's set right on that hill right along, would be right on the north side of Route 40.
Wow.
That's where
Okay.
it's set.
On the north side?
Between St. Louis and something.
So that beacon would have set somewhere in here, what you're talking about.
All right,
The
well,
wine would be about here, just north
all
of
right, it's
40.
just a little bit east of the winery.
Okay, so somewhere in this vicinity is what you're
Well,
saying.
then
And that would
it's-
corroborate what your friend just
That was a
said.
Keller ground at that time.
A what?
Well,
Keller.
Okay.
Kellum.
Kellum?
Keller.
Okay. Was
Uh,
that, what was the purpose of that beacon? For airplanes?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, airplane navigation.
Way back then, they
Yeah.
had to have something fly by.
Yeah.
Right? And they turned them on at night? and pointed them
Okay.
in the sky then, okay.
Okay, now, Frankie Coon. We get back to Frankie. I told him, I said, I think whoever's asking, this was some kind of a government agency, or FFA or something, that was asking him about these towers. And a friend of mine told me that they were about 10 miles apart, which would be close to Montrose. Okay. And I said, I think that tower is what that beacon tower is what those people are thinking of that would be on your property. Now the reason is, if you know where Frankie Coon lives, right there on Main Street, you go directly south of him, there's a gully and woods behind his house. That's a Kellum Woods. If this was on Kellum ground, we're talking about, he said, in his property, behind him. Well, but I mean, it could have been in a direct line where it would have looked like it might have been on his property. That's closest we could figure out to that story anyway. But that beacon could be seen all over town. I remember seeing it. Took me a while to remember it, but I finally remembered it. Then I also remember, and I miss them, I hate they had to tear them out. There used to be a sidewalk all the way down to the railroad tracks and steps going down those hills, Mort James Hill and the Light Plant Hill. You walked down, you had to go, it was pretty steep, and you had to go down steps. Then if you picture, let's see, I've got viaduct here. Where are we?
Viaduct.
Number 24. A map.
You want a map?
Yeah. There's one of the viaducts.
Here's a map.
Okay.
It's 2 viaducts. There's one there, one there.
Yeah, okay. Well, you picture this area without the Pennsylvania track elevation and the viaducts. There was a slaughterhouse on the east side, south of the light plant road, near the Chick Myers property, which is Larry McCullough Jr.'s now, right past the viaduct. Okay. And people did their butchering here, as well as business houses, one of which was Hayden's Meat Market. And they did their own butchering, of course.
How
Back
long
in-
ago would that have been, Bobbie?
I don't know, but Hayden's Meat Market started in 1909.
Okay.
So, and it's a pity because it just missed by about 7 years, being a 100-year-old family-owned business in the same family.
What was their names?
Ernest Hayden, Ernest and
No,
Edward.
Where the slaughterhouse was you talking, on that ground in there?
Oh, who owned the ground in there? I'm going to guess it was Bill Dees, or John Dees, where the McCullough boy lives now. Because Dees owned tons of ground down in there. And they built that house where I was going to tell a story about Omi Dees, but that's going to make it too long. They built that house that he lives in.
Well, there was another slaughterhouse on west, on the south side of Penn Central. Oh, I'd say a quarter and a half on west, back there in the field, along that creek that runs along there.
Oh, really?
Wondering, I can't remember the people's names.
Oh.
I can't recall them.
Well,
Was there Westall or something like that?
oh yeah. Westall's lived in
I
there.
think that's the ground it was on.
Oh, really? They have a
They
slaughterhouse?
had a building there and everything where they run the animals.
Oh,
keep 'em in.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, that was the Westall place. Oh, okay. Now, the stockyards were south of the James Road
Okay.
and
James
east
Road.
and north of where Kim Fritz lives now. You know, he got that big pond down there and
Somewhere in
lives
this
way
area.
up on that hill, kind of across from Charlie Carver's.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got Kim written
Yeah.
right there. Okay, east and north
Okay.
of him. And in 1890, Daniel Job had a blacksmith shop here. John Tracy bought cattle and horses here and sold them at the livery barn downtown, one of which, there's been a jillion of them, but this particular one was right across the street from where Theo Swim lives. Y'all know where he lives? No. How about go north of the IGA, 1 block. It's on the corner to your left. It's a pretty big house there. Glidewell lady built it originally. That was where that livery was. In 1887, this isn't important. Rosie Fritz's uncle, Eli Elston, was trying to ride one of these wild ponies and fell off and dislocated his shoulder. I told that the other group because I figured that some of them might know him. Let's see. The first James Mill burned down due to a lightning strike, as did most everything else. And I don't have any date except Mort operated it until he retired in 1927. And, okay, then on the curve at the top of the light plant hill, up there where that FS is, Okay, that mill was established, or the elevator was established by W.H. Allenbaugh, and in 1919, Ross Greason bought him out, and it was called the Greason elevator, and it made the most history in that elevator's operation because it was one of Greenup's biggest fires, and it burned in 1937, and I was there because I'm a firebug.
She's one of seven. Seven matches.
Greason's coal bins were south of the light plant, and rail cars switched off here. And is there anybody here that's related to the Mitchells, the Martins, the Van Socks, the Mitchells, Martins, Van Socks, and DeValls? Nobody. Well, I won't go into that story. It won't make any difference to you, but if you were, it would be very interesting. Okay, but Nelson Mitchell. Now, I'll tell you where all these folks lived originally. Nelson is all his offspring and down. Go cross I-70 bridge, and there you go down a hill, and you go up a hill, and there's a cluster of houses up there, and that is I call it the Duval settlement, because a big bunch of them up there is Nelson's offspring, and they're Duvals. Okay, and Nels was, he and his wife, I did an interview on him when I was a newspaper reporter, when they had their 65th wedding anniversary. And I can't remember how many descendants he had now, but was a ton. And he was assisted by his daughter, Treva Martin, and they'd unload the coal. And in, they had to be finished by midnight when the train hooked up and took the cars away. And I can't remember what they got, 18 cents, I think, a load. And, and it was during this time, 1903, that the Wapuck Wagon Road was built. And it was just a horse path before that. Now the Mitchell family, there's a great big long story to that which I'm not going to tell, but they lived down there by the depot on the east side of the tracks, south and east, and they had a room and boarding house. There were 4 rooms for living quarters and a long room on the west which served as a restaurant, and they served coffee, soup, sandwiches, and Nellie, her pies to people waiting to make train connections. And, let's see, we got the Junction House coming up, I think. But I want to see what, it's next, isn't it?
It could be.
Number 27, Beacon, Light Plant Street Viaduct, yeah, okay. I gotta go back. Okay. 1927.
Have you hit the Broomcorn buildings yet?
No, but we will.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you, just go ahead and show those.
Okay.
That's Dunamaker's Broomcorn. That's right next to the light plant. And there was also a store. I finally found out that was a Broomcorn storage building. Downtown where the Kemper plumber, where his place is. There was a big building that looked similar to this. In fact, tell you the truth, we've got another picture of that building. There it is. Are we sure that's the same building?
Well, we have the light plant here. It says light plant at depot. See, that's interesting. That's original, whoever wrote that in there. And then this would be the broom corn that you see. So there's all the broom corn.
I mean,
All
is
over.
it the same building?
I don't know.
Look at the doorway. See,
Okay,
that's
now-
got a platform.
Okay, got a platform, but look up there. So
Yeah.
let's looky here. It looks similar, but the door looks bigger on this next picture. I can't tell for sure if it's.
That looks like,
it's similar.
it's hard to tell.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah, it could be.
okay. Now, besides this room and boarding house of Nels Mitchell's, let's get to Net Nunemaker and the depot and the junction house. Oh, there's another picture of that.
Yeah, there's another.
No,
Okay, let me get to.
that's a livery stable. How'd that get in there?
I want to get to. Okay, we got the viaducts there. Okay, what story are we on now?
Junction house. As soon as I find my little lead in here. Well, I
Here,
know.
Junction House.
Okay, I know that by heart. So.
Okay, we'll get back to those other stories in a minute.
Okay. The earliest I can find for this Junction House Hotel, which is that hotel on the right, is 1878. I can't find any information on it before that. But it was totally destroyed by fire in the early morning hours of December 1908. Everything was destroyed except a few pieces of furniture and $25 cash, and belonged to a Mrs. Sparks of Toledo, who'd been renting the establishment for the past 5 months. The hotel, most of the furniture belonged to J.P. Ewart. Now that was old Grandpa Ewart that built the theater and the lumber yard, if you remember the lumber yard uptown where our depot sits and all. Okay. And he carried about $1,800 worth of insurance. Fire company arrived too late, and they could only protect the other buildings. The depot was, now there's, if
Here's
you
the
remember,
Junction House right there.
if you remember Fred Wild that started the Wild Insurance, that's his sister, Ned Hibben. Okay. But they protected the other buildings, and the depot caught fire, but it was quickly extinguished. Traveling man renting a room for the night was awakened by the smoke and barely escaped with his life. They thought it was caused by a defective flue or an oil lamp explosion. The delay in response, due to the distance and tiring the firemen, showed the absolute necessity of a new four-wheeled cart and capable of holding extra hose and the men's uniforms. And in its 30-year reign that I'm aware of, burning, rebuilding, restoring, back and forth, I've only heard it referred to at one time by another name, with the exception of 1886. And that name was reported in the papers that Charles Yargo set a fine table at his Hotel de Yarg. So that's what they called it then. Now, besides, wait a minute, I gotta find that hotel right there.
That's the Junction Hotel right there.
Oh, that's the junction?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I have
Wait a
3
minute.
pictures right there. Mm-hmm.
Now, wait a minute. there's some more that goes with that, and I can't find it.
That's okay.
Let's see. Maybe it's over here. Well, anyway, what I was going to say was that there was a Dr. Dillon, and he must have had a lot of money, because at one time he owned that Junction Hotel, but he also, where's our Dillon now? There. That's the Dillon Hotel. He also owned that, and I'll tell you where that's set. That was torn down to make room for the east end of the shoe factory.
I'll be darned.
They bought that property. The east end of the last part of the shoe factory.
So would that be right on where Dillier's hatchery or?
Yeah, right next to it.
Okay.
Close next to it, because there was a house in between. Abe Loving's house was in
So that would be
between.
the house right there then, right?
And that was the Dillon. That was the Dillon. Now there's another one with a buggy, a horse and buggy.
Yeah, let's see. I gotta go back and see if I can find that.
That I know we had 3 pictures of that.
We got several. Okay, it's this way. There it is, Dillon Hotel. right
Yes, Dillon Hotel. You can see the sign.
So this-
Now you see the if you live very long in Greenup, you'll remember that where our village municipal building sits, that sidewalk goes diagonally up to it, and then on this back side of it, it goes diagonally that way to the street. That years ago, that used to be a road through there. And if you will notice on the left of this picture, that's the end of it, the diagonal, and at the end of it there was a pump on each end, pump and a water trough, and hitching posts around the square.
Okay, now the diagonal street where the school used to be located, is that the diagonal that you're talking about that used to come from southeast?
No,
to
that's over
northwest?
there.
Yeah, that'd be over here.
Yeah.
But are you talking about the extension of that road coming across this
Well,
way?
right in there
Okay.
would be our municipal
Right,
building. This road goes diagonally up to it,
Okay.
and then you got the building,
Right.
and then
And
it
on the
goes
other side.
diagonally out to the corner,
Okay.
both corners. But at one time, it was supposed to have been a road, and at one time, I think that our very first school was built on that property. And, okay, let's see. How much more do I need
Well,
to
we've got
tell
this
before I
Surrey. You
put
can
you to
tell,
sleep?
tell that story about the Surrey and the hack, the cab that go down to the depot, and the drays.
Yeah, well, wait a minute here. On, what number are we up to?
About 31, give or take.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Okay, wait a minute. I'll talk faster here. Okay, hacks were the taxi of the day. Drays took the freight up.
There's a dray right there.
And, the hack, you think about them like a Surrey with the fringe on top, because they had you can see it right there, in fact. See the fringe on the top? We get that from our movies if we don't remember, and I'm sure I don't. One of our hack drivers that had one of the finest rigs was Johnny Green. And he owned several farms and horses. And if you remember Johnny, and you happen to have a beauty salon appointment, you're liable to see him under a dryer with a hairnet on, getting his beautiful white hair marceled. He was very particular about his hair. And in 1889, his ads would run, making all trains at all hours except the 2:04 a.m. number 6, which is a special order. A round trip to any part of town is a quarter. Baggage transfer in connection. Leave orders at the concert house. Y'all know where the concert house was. Hotel right over, the big hotel right over here on the corner. Okay. The Barber Inn, concert house. Oh, and other names. That was the two longest ones. Winnett's was the last one. Oh,
Is that right?
the what?
When I first got married, we lived in
Well, so did I. Oh, it was right after the war and you couldn't find a place to rent. Everybody was coming home. Anyway, said leave your orders at the concert house. And, but he had competition. Because if you wanted to lodge at Frank Bosworth's European Hotel, he would provide free transportation from the railroad to his hotel. And then Mort James, in addition to being a grain broker, he was also a depot agent for a while. In 1874, he released 28 homing pigeons that had been sent here from Knightsville, Indiana. 1885, 1,100 geese were shipped out from here. Our Greenup Broom Company sent...
How many geese?
1,100. Our Greenup Broom Company sent brooms out by rail. And, by the way, that was probably Quinn's, but it was across from the bowling alley, where the bowling alley used to be. In 1890, our Columbia water, which is our mineral water, it was sent in all directions as far as Germany. And in 1891, special excursion trains brought people to Greenup to the mineral well to drink the water and have big celebrations and all. And in 1901,
Where was the mineral well located?
where's the mineral well? Go as far north of the IGA as you can go. And you come to a dead end, right up by Gary. You come to a dead end, and you just take a jog and go down the hill if you can get down it now. And it was down there. I spent...
Where the fire truck went down, Mike Barkley was driving a brand new fire truck, the brakes, didn't have any brakes on it, straight down the hill.
It was
Whoa.
down close to the river then.
Yeah.
Well, the river, yeah, not too close, but the river ran on west of it.
Are there any remnants at all left of that, do you know?
Last, I was a newspaper reporter from 57 to, somewhere around 19, in the early 1960s, I did a big story on it, and still had a shack, and they'd plugged up the mineral water, but they had a pipe, and they say that it would still run if you could get it unplugged, but shack's been torn down and...
Is it on private property today, and are there any remnants at all left? Because I wanted to get a little bit of film of that area if I could find it.
I'll go
Well-
down there with you sometime. Seems like I saw something down there about 10 or 12
Oh,
years
I've got a
ago. I
lot
was
of
down there.
pictures of it.
Just ask Tim Shaw.
Is it on his land? Okay.
Been cleaning up
Who?
Tim Shaw.
Tim Scholl.
I thought Jerry Jackson owned that.
Well, it's a street from Jerry Jackson for sure, so down in the holler there.
Well,
Feel free to take me up, down there if you could.
We've got,
you need to see some of my pictures.
Well, yeah, I need that too, but I want to
Yeah.
get some actual.
That'd be a
then,
good one to get.
Then my newspaper story and pictures and all's over there at the Historical Society.
I just want to get an actual location.
Well,
We've got 1 or 2 bottles, I think one, over in the Historical Society, big 5-gallon glass jug, basically, where people used to buy that mineral water from. We got that from the Ina Delia estate. Seems like they sold one more at the estate. I don't know who bought it, but it went for a lot of money.
well, they had what they called demijohns, and they were a wooden, kind of a wooden crate-like thing, but they would tip.
Right.
You put these great big heavy jugs
We've
in
got
there.
that.
And then you tipped it and that poured the water out.
Before I run out of film, I've got a question. On the railroad, the east-west railroad, Vandalia, Pennsylvania, etc. It originally ran at grade level, down. Okay. When they built that up all the way across the entire bottom ground, where was the original railroad and where was the new one? Were they side by side? Did it relocate then or what?
Yeah,
How did that work?
from what I can tell, about 50 feet south of where the railroad originally was. Now, Bobbie might disagree with me on this. I've tramped through it. The High Line was about 50 feet south of where the old tracks were. That's what I think. Now, she might disagree with that.
No,
Totally.
I wouldn't disagree with you.
You wouldn't disagree on
No.
that? Okay.
Bobby?
Now, look how pretty this was at one time.
That's the original.
That's the original, And it was just, here's Mort James's mill right through here. Here's some of the switching areas. Over on the other side, we're going to have the coal bins probably, and all that would be further back that way. This is where the Illinois Central crosses over the Pennsylvania, and this would be the platform for the big depot, which would be located right in through there. It
Yes, and
was a real pretty area. at
that's
one
the
time.
other thing. That platform, go back to Ned Hibben.
If I can find her now. I think I'm going the wrong way. We got to tell those stories there.
There. Now, see those people over there in front of that junction house and see the ones walking across? That was a wooden platform across the tracks. Okay, then in these little pictures he just now showed you of that tower, I think when this burned down in 1908, they put that tower in that place because it's got the same type of wooden platform across the
Now,
tracks.
you're talking about-
walking platform across.
This tower right there, is that what you're talking
No,
about?
the other one, the tall, yeah, that one.
That one?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. They got the depot there and the tower on the south side.
Well, the junction house was on the south side.
South side junction house. I think it would be right over there.
I think the junction house was right in there where that tower sat later.
that could be.
Because it burnt in 1908.
Well, that's true. That's true.
And they did all this revamping in
Uh-huh.
26 and 27.
Let's get them up to John Jacob Astor. Some
Okay.
of them are getting ready to go.
Yeah, some of them's getting tired, I know. I got tons more stuff, but
Would you like to take a 5-minute break? Or?
Yeah, and give me a chance to go get another memory.
Okay, let's take just a few minutes here, and we won't be too much longer. And I'll get Bobbie where she wants to go. Here.
yeah, now you're wanting to
I
tell
want to get to
them.
John Jacob Astor, or if you want to get to the
Oh.
train wrecks.
No, I'm not going to tell about all those train
Okay.
wrecks.
Well, there's John Jacob Astor,
Hey,
and there's a
except-
good story about him.
Oh, you got a good picture of
got
him.
a good picture. Of him. But we're going to take a break here.
Okay.
Take 5 or 10.
Go to the restroom. We'll see if we can get some pop.
If you want to, we can let Bobbie and Roger, talk for another half an hour or whatever. But if you want to make another date for this, I mean, we can. I mean,
Oh,
it's up to them.
please.
The stories never stop.
Because they have so much information to give out, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and what we don't know, we make up.
And then, like I said, they can't give it out on one night, so.
Well, one quick little thing though, you shouldn't have brought up train wreck, because our American Legion was named for our 3 boys that got killed in World War I.
In fact, I'll go there, Bobbie, if you want to.
Okay, and I did want to tell that kind of bad. Okay, that was it.
Okay.
Back up.
All right.
There. And they brought this first one home in 1919, and his name was Fred Nichols. And they brought the other 2 right after that, in 21, I think. And their name was, there's a big celebration they had for them. And that was Nichols, or I said Fred Nichols. That was Boggs and Goodman and Boggs. Now, I knew their first names, and it's in here. Can't remember. One of them, I think, was Oscar. Anyway, so that's who they named the Legion for. Well, it just so happens that this Fred Nichols folks lived out east of town here, just a little ways, a mile or so up north off the York Road. There's a crossing up there. What the dickens did we call that crossing? A cedar tree. Cedar Tree Crossing, they called it. And his mother and father and sister all got killed there. And I kind of went along with this story, you know, because I just found that out. I didn't know that the Fred Nichols that our Legion was named after, that was his parents. I knew about the wreck and all.
So they were in a car and they got hit by a train there at the
Got
crossing?
hit by a train, no, and 3 of them killed. Then another little funny story real quick, like it's not a bad train wreck, but it's a bad derailment. Down there we're close to Harlan Carl on that Edelbrick Road, there was a train, yeah, that's a good shot. There was a train derailed down there, it was full of all kinds of vegetables and produce, and it just spilled out all over, and all the people in town were running down there trying to get apples and oranges and all kinds of stuff. Well, this Palmer Owens, who lived down by the railroad, he was a section hand. He was the boss of the gang. And he went down and got a big bunch of potatoes and hid them. And when he went back to get him, somebody found where he hid them and everything. Okay, and what was it now you was wanting?
John Jacob Astor.
Oh, John Jacob Astor. John Jacob Astor, yeah.
He is at number 41.
Okay, well, I'm way back here. Well, he stopped at this junction house. He was changing trains. Just pull up the writing and you can read it to him.
Okay. He was the grandson of one of the richest men in America in the 1840s. Astoria, Washington would have been named for him. They got wealthy with the fur industry. And so this was the grandson. He basically didn't have a whole lot to do in life other than to spend his money and travel. And so he supposedly came through Greenup. I don't know if he was coming from the west and went to the north, or coming from the north and went to the east, or something.
I think he was coming on the IC and changing trains for New York.
For New York, okay. So he stops at the depot, and it made news because he's a celebrity. This is the Bill Gates of his day. And so this particular story, Bobbie, I don't know if you transcribed this or where this came from, but about noon last Thursday, a southbound officer's special on the Illinois Central pulled up at the station, and a couple of colored porters hustled a trunk and dressing case over to the Vandalia station. "Hey, check this to New York," said one of the dusky gentlemen officiously to the bagman, Sam T. Haight, I guess his name is. The latter looked at the man of color and a little dubiously, and with the air of a fellow from Missouri, said, "You'll have to show me." Following the porters in truck came a tall, angular, raw-boned, dark-complected fellow about as dark as the Negroes themselves, and astride like a globe-trotter. He went to the junction house and made the landlord, O.E. Hammer, glad by giving him $1 for a couple of cigars, while Jimmy Phelps was tickled to death by a tip of 50 cents for polishing his shoes and brushing his umbrella. The man was John Jacob Astor, the New York millionaire. He got off the special here to take number 2 for New York, and this was the Greenup Press as of October 4th, 1900. Over in our depot across the street, we've got Jimmy Phelps's shoe shine box from that, which is an interesting story. Now, a lot of people might not know John Jacob Astor, but you sure know this story. He died on the Titanic in 1912, and that was back in the days of gentlemen and women and children first. He had just created a scandal in the United States by getting a young maid pregnant, He divorced his wife of 25 years, and to kind of escape the scandal, he took his young wife over to Europe for 6 months. They were on their way back to the United States, and she got off the boat. He tried to get off the boat. He couldn't, and he went down with the Titanic. So John Jacob Astor, we have a little tie with Greenup right here and the Titanic, which is an interesting story.
Well, another little funny thing too, real quick. One little line sentence says that we were talking about the section gang, and in 1910, 2 members resigned when they discovered that the Illinois Central had hired 4 Dagos. Now you talk about discrimination, and I gotta tell you about the bums real quick.
I wished I had that picture.
I don't know why we lost that one.
I don't know either.
Um,
I'll take them to a map.
Come all ye jolly jokers if you want to have some fun and listen while I relate the tale of the great American bum.
Here's the bum camp right there.
Oh, you did find it?
I have the
Oh,
bum camp,
yeah.
but I don't have the picture.
From the east and west and north and south like a swarm of bees they come. They sleep in the dirt and wear a shirt that's dirty, full of crumbs. Oh, lady, would you be kind enough to give me something to eat? A piece of bread and butter and a tender slice of meat? Some apple pie and custard, just to tickle my appetite. For really I'm so hungry and don't know where I'll sleep tonight. Well, I remember it well. I was born during the Depression years, and we lived where the Catholic Parish Hall is now, right in the middle of the block. In fact, the driveway in was our driveway. And the hobos were always knocking at our back door for a handout. And Grandma always fixed him a sandwich. And I was in elementary school, and if I was home alone, I'd run and hide and lock the door. And now they would oftentimes put an X on the side of a tree or on the side of a house so their fellow companions would know there was a charitable occupant there, and they'd stop for a handout there too. And Greenup's bum camp was okay, south of the Pensy tracks and west of Charlie Carver's. So
There's
that's
the tracks, there's the bums, there's Chuck Carver's old place.
okay. And his niece lives there now, Tanya Doherty. There used to be 3 wells here, which leads me to believe that if we had no track elevation and the tracks were down on the ground, we got 3 wells and there was a foundation there, it's just possible the junction house was there, because it would just be sort of right straight across from the depot. If the depot's where we think it was, we'll never find that out for sure. Oh, but the hobos wore a path through here, and that's where that little road is that Charlie closed up. In later years, it became one of the another popular lover's lane.
She knows where all these places.
Yeah, I know 3 or 4 more too. During the Depression, this boxcar brigade might number as many as 20 to 30. They stole chickens and eggs in the Owens family. That's the same Palmer Owen that tried to steal the potatoes, hide them. They could never get any produce out of their vegetable garden. They live right down there by the tracks. All the neighborhood boys enjoyed visiting the hobos and listening to their tales of wild escapades. The bums would say, if we just had some onions and potatoes, we could make soup. So off the lads would go to their various homes to raid Mom's bins, grab a loaf of bread, or any other loose edibles lying around. They cooked the soup in tin cans with a wire for a handle. Just prior to World War II, the numbers decreased to around 5 or 6. Perhaps some saw the opportunity of a job, for there were those who would knock on your door and offer labor for lunch. Or maybe they had patriotic instincts and enlisted. The area became a depository for old junk cars, and I think leather scraps from the shoe factory also. The bums would remove the seats in the cars, and they'd use them for chairs around the campfire and then replace them in the autos to sleep in at night. Other times they'd sleep in a farmer's barn. And these vagabonds, they weren't the only ones to ride the rails. Our young locals, such as Arnie Ozier, Max Winnett, Burge Griffith, and John Loomis. The Loomis was the Greeks at the Candy Kitchen, in case you don't know. They'd hop a slow-moving freight and go to Mattoon to seek the pleasures of the city. However, instead of boxcars, they rode on top of the trains. And one of the aforementioned locals, John Loomis, was a rowdy, due mainly to his fondness for the hard stuff. On one occasion, he got drunk and unruly, so he was arrested, and his trial was held under a tree in the town yard across from Holt's store. His attorney was Gus Kaler, another resident that was not exactly known for sobriety. In fact, he was often so inebriated, he's remembered more for a liquid bottle than a legal battle. Gus lost the case, and Loomis hopped a freight for Cairo, where he had Greek relatives. Now, there's one more little thing, although there's a jillion other little things here, but this one I just thought was, oh wait, we got to finish up with who was the last depot agent.
Okay.
Clarence Scholl came to Greenup from Columbus, Indiana in 1905 and served as the Union Station's depot agent for 40 years and was the agent when I took my first train ride to Newton. Harry Genuine had purchased 2 houses side by side. One, a large corner home owned by Debbie Lee now, and the one next door. And the one next door, if you went down that street, you'd recognize it. It just looks like a great big barn.
I think it's an old Sears house.
People at what?
I think it's an old Sears house.
Oh,
there are several houses that look like that.
The people has it really looking nice. Well, that's
Didn't Tom Finley used to live in there?
Not in the barn one. He lived in the one right next to it.
Well, anyway, Harry asked his wife which one she preferred, and she chose the corner property. So Clarence Scholl and his wife lived in the other one. Now, Ivy was a good friend of my mom. She got free train passes a lot. So she invited my mother to go to the 1933 World's Fair in Chicago. And they should never have told me. Because when Ivy drove up to pick my mother up, talk about jealous. I kicked, I screamed, I pulled on the car door, begging to go along. But who'd want to drag a 7-year-old kid around in Chicago at the World's Fair? But I was a spoiled brat because I lost my father to cancer when I was 4 1/2. I was raised by 3 women. My mom, my grandma, and my Aunt Martha. And when I married Chuck Goodman, we were talking about that, and he said his whole family went to the Chicago World's Fair, and he got to see Sally Rand do her fan dance. And I was still jealous after all those years. And one of the trips that Ivy Scholl took free was to St. Louis to get a permanent wave. She came back home and all the women were just waiting they wanted to see what a permanent wave looked like. And after clearance, Shoal, Bill Kent took over. That was 1945. And he was the agent for 45 years and closed the doors for the last time in 1973. And Bill kept a blue racer in the depot to help kill rats. There's Bill. Now, show the forlorn and forgotten. There it is when it sat down there after the doors were closed. See all the weeds around it and all. It looks rather forlorn and forgotten.
Was this just down the hill from the winery? Is that where it was?
Yeah.
located? I thought it was.
Okay. I didn't even get to tell about my grandpa building that road.
That'll be
Okay.
next time.
And, okay, the current. We can pride ourselves on its reincarnation. And as a waitress, I was always curious about the humorous way that waiters called orders in at the railroad kitchen, to the railroad kitchen cooks. And I visited with Bill Kent. We were neighbors when I was young married, about diner lingo. So here's this little quick, just a few little things on this quiz. I'll give you a couple of easy ones first. Okay, so you got a waiter calling an order into a cook, and he says, Coney Island.
Hot dog.
Right. Okay.
I heard this before. I can't tell.
Two on a raft and wreck 'em.
Eggs over easy.
What?
Scrambled eggs. Scrambled.
Bacon and eggs.
Two on a raft and wreck 'em. Scrambled eggs on toast.
One of you said scrambled eggs.
Yeah, scrambled eggs. Okay. Baled hay.
Baled hay.
Baled hay. Shredded wheat. Whiskey down. Rye toast.
Rye toast, okay.
Dog soup.
Dog soup. Dog soup.
Water. Okay, let's see. X the hail.
X.
Or 86 the hail. 86 means, get rid of it.
Oh, no
We're out.
ice.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Here's an easy one. Vermont.
Maple syrup.
Right. Okay, nervous pudding. Right.
Jelly?
Jello.
Jello? Nervous
Same
pudding.
thing. Okay.
Now, wouldn't it be easier to say Jello than nervous pudding?
But yeah, it'd be easier. Well, it wouldn't be near as much fun.
Oh, okay. Nervous pudding.
Burn one, make it cry.
Steak.
I can't hear you.
Steak, he said.
Steak, no. Burn one, make it cry.
Something with onions.
Hamburger and onions.
Hamburger and onions, okay.
Okay, see if I got two or three more really cute ones here. Italian perfume.
Spaghetti?
No.
Got us on that one, Bobbie.
Garlic. Mike and Ike.
Mike and Ike.
That's salt and pepper.
Oh, okay. Mike and Ike.
Bossy in a bowl.
Milk or cream?
Beef stew.
Beef stew.
Warts.
Warts. That just sounds nasty, Bobbie.
Olives.
Olives. Olives.
I'll give you one more. Sweep the kitchen floor.
Sweep the kitchen floor.
Hash.
Hash.
Let's take this hog to market.
Let's take this hog to market.
That's it.
Oh.
That's it. That's the end of my show.
Good job, Bobbie. Very good.
Thank you very much.
Well, that just scratched the surface, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, the trouble is, if you ever do it again, you got to remember what you did the last time.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. What?
She said we might have new people next time.
We'll talk about it. If we want to do it again, we'll definitely let them know, that's for sure.